Timberwolves president of basketball operations, David Kahn. Who is he?
Tell us exactly about this European Blake Griffin.
I don't know. I think Blake Griffin is American Habbas.
The Charlotte Hornets select Kobe Bryant.
The Milwaukee Bucks select Dirk Nowitzki from Würzburg, Germany.
I'm Ricky Rubio. I'm not like anybody else, but
It ain't the end of the world. We're going to see each other again. I mean, I'll send him some flowers or some fruit.
All right, and now here's the next guest in the draft forecast here for NBADraftInsider.com. He's, in most people's eyes, the #1 college writer or one of the top sources for college basketball in the game today. Is Jeff Goodman of CBSSports.com. How are we doing tonight, Jeff?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing great over here. You're putting in the work. College basketball is right around the corner, about a week away from getting out to these big tournaments, right?
It is. I can't wait. I mean, I can't wait for the games, especially early in the season. There's just so many good games, tournaments. I'm going to kind of probably park myself in New York City for about 8 or 9 days from November 15th through the 23rd and just kind of watch all the good teams come through.
And that's something you've told me before is kind of the big benefit of jumping from Fox to CBS is the ability to not feel like you're spreading yourself thin. I know the jokes are always Jeff running through the airport to get to the next flight. How has that transition been over to CBS and being able to sink your teeth into certain projects?
It's been great. I mean, a good reason, why I came over was Gary Parrish and having some help, somebody I can rely on. He's been great. Certainly CBS places a premium on college basketball. That's why I'm there as well. And so far, so good. But, again, the real, it's been the off season. I can't wait for the regular season, the games to begin.
Now, CBS, obviously the leader in college basketball, runs the NCAA tournament. Let's go ahead and just get started right there. UConn, the returning champ after a anticlimactic championship game against Butler. A lot of people were expecting a little bit more from that, but they return a ton of talent. They bring in Jeremy Lamb, who is the hotshot pick to be an All-American and a great player, even though some people are doubters. Andre Drummond comes in as well with Alex Oriaki and Shabazz Napier as quality role players. Talk about the talent on UConn, and are they good enough to make another run?
Yeah, they're absolutely good enough. I don't know if they have that one guy that's going to put him on their, on his back like Kemba Walker did, but what they do have is 4 or 5 guys now that can lead the team in scoring on any given night. And now it's kind of, where do you go? I mean, like you said, you've got Jeremy Lamb, who started to emerge at the end of last season and has a pretty high ceiling. I mean, this is a guy that as a junior in high school averaged about 5 points per game. So he's still coming on here. Andre Drummond, many people had him as the #1 player in the class of 2012, ends up going in this year a year ahead of what people thought, and very, very talented. Hard to read sometimes because he does not look like he plays hard. Sometimes he doesn't play hard, doesn't show much emotion, has all the physical attributes. I mean, he's got Dwight Howard-type shoulders, really passes the ball well, likes to play away from the basket. I don't think he's quite as good as what people are hyping him up to be, but he doesn't have to be that at UConn because he's got guys like Lamb, Alex Oriaki, who's a junior now, needs to become more consistent, needs to become tougher. Some of the same questions that Andre Drummond's going to face, by the way. And the guy I love is Shabazz Napier. Love him. I don't know how good a pro he'll be. I think he'll be good. Shoots it much better than people realize. And again, he defends. The key for him is going to be, can he run a team? But again, last year, it's not like Kemba was a true point guard, and they did fine. I think Napier's going to have to try to find that balance between scoring when he needs to and keeping guys like Lamb, Oriaki happy. And then they've got other guys. I mean, they've got Roscoe Smith and DeAndre Daniels, on the wing. I mean, this is a team that, again, looks a whole lot better on paper than the one that won the national title last year.
Yeah, Calhoun definitely has some hype to deal with this year. I mean, a lot of people were undervaluing Walker and UConn and that whole team last year, and he just took them through a magical run. Kemba Walker and, to a big degree, Jimmer Fredette, a different player, of course, but those two carry the college basketball season from a headline perspective. Do we have another headline maker in college basketball? It kind of seems like there's a lot of good players, but really no one that's got that electric spark.
Well, Terrence Jones just had 52 points in an inter-squad scrimmage tonight. So I think a lot of people are going to be talking about him now. Harrison Barnes certainly looks like what we remember Harrison Barnes looking like in the summers towards the second half of last year when Kendall Marshall came into the starting lineup. Jared Sullinger, you know what you're going to get with him. Anthony Davis, the number one player coming into the season, at Kentucky, long, talented. The number two player was Austin Rivers at Duke. He's talented, but I think both those guys are going to be honest, they're going to have the growing pains early in the season. Not quite to the extent, I think, of Harrison Barnes, but I don't think they're going to dominate right out of the gates like people are expecting. So, I think if I had to say a couple names right now, I'd say you got to watch Barnes, you got to watch, Sullinger. Terrence Jones certainly looks like he may be the guy now because you know what? Having a guy like Michael Gilchrist, the freshman who plays so hard at Kentucky, playing behind Terrence Jones, that's the ultimate motivator for Terrence Jones. Now he's not going to be able to go through, playing when he wants to, and I think Calipari will probably take a different approach to him as well.
So you mentioned that Harrison Barnes could be one of those guys. Let me throw three names at you that I think could be very interesting in that conversation as well. John Jenkins of Vanderbilt, okay, Bradley Beal of Florida, and Quincy Miller of Baylor. All three that are in unique situations, I guess you can say. Could any of those three be the guy that steps up and could be the leader and the big story?
No, I don't think so. I think they're all really good players. I mean, Jenkins might be the best pure shooter in the country at Vandy, and Vandy could go far. So Jenkins will be a major storyline. Bradley Beal, the problem with him is there's only one basketball, and there's four wing players that all four perimeter players who all love to shoot the ball at Florida. Kenny Boynton, number one on the list, Irving Walker, number two, and then you add, obviously, Bradley Beal and Mike Rosario that transfer from Rutgers, and you got four guys that all want to score it. So Beal will be good. He'll be more efficient. He's the best of that group. But, again, it's not like he's going to get 20 shots like some of these other guys we're talking about. Quincy Miller, very talented. I don't know what to make out of Quincy Miller yet. I need to see him in that Baylor system. He's a little wild, talented. He looks the part. He's long. He's athletic. His shot's not pretty, but it kind of goes in. So Quincy Miller's one I got to reserve judgment on until I see him, in a college system.
Now, two-part question on Brad Beal, and I think you're going to agree with this to an extent. I don't know what your feeling is on it, but Bradley Beal goes to Florida. Good school. He's a good player. Normally that makes sense, but a lot of the talk out of Florida is he might play four. There's not enough basketballs, like you said. Why hasn't the success of teams like Butler led to players like Bradley Beal saying, you know what, Florida's not a good fit for me. I'm going to go to not saying Butler specifically, but maybe to a school where they'll have the ball in their hands and they'll get to show their game.
Kids. I mean, kids these days, what do they want to do? They want to get to the league the quickest, and they look at numbers. They look at, going to a Midnight Madness or to an official visit, and all the people at Kansas and Florida and Kentucky scream their name, and unfortunately that's what matters to most of these kids. And that's why you won't see most of the top 25 kids going to a mid-major school. They're going to go to one of the powerhouses, and they feel like they're better than whatever else is there, so that they'll play. Bradley Beal's thinking, well, I'm better than Irving Walker, and I'm better than Kenny Boynton, so I'm going to play. Well, those guys are, they're veterans. I mean, Irving Walker is a senior. He's going to play a lot because Billy Donovan can trust him on both ends of the court. But Bradley Beal, again, high IQ guy, can score it. He's efficient. Reminds me a lot of a Ray Allen type player, and he'll play a lot. He just, again, you're right. I mean, go to a different school and average, 25 a game as a freshman, but he's not going to get the TV exposure. It's just going to be a different type of environment.
The TV stuff makes sense. I can definitely agree with that. After Butler's success, I mean, Brad Stevens clearly is a great coach and a good mind, and I guess he just captures lightning in a bottle because he has talented players year in and year out there without grabbing these top 25 guys. So maybe he doesn't necessarily need these guys.
No, you're right. You're right. I mean, there's no question. Brad Stevens I talked to last week, and he's fine with sticking to what got him there. And I don't think he wants to deal with – and he knows he can't get him. Let's face it. You're in the horizon. You're not in TV enough in league play. So he knows it. I mean, they couldn't get Cody Zeller, and that was kind of the one guy they thought they might have had a shot, but he realizes kind of what's going on and where his limitations are as far as recruits, and I think he's fine with it because he loves, the types of kids he's got.